Hi, everybody. It's Charlie Lennon, your executive leadership coach, speaker, trainer, and I am the host of the Communicate to Lead virtual leadership conference. And I hope that you all have enjoyed the conference thus far. We have brought you another fantastic speaker, and I would like to formally introduce you all to Sparkle. Sparkle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to be here and to learn with you, to grow with you, and to share my expertise with you as well.
That's why your mom named you Sparkle, because you just sparkle when you talk. I love it.
It is my
You just
real name.
shine.
It
I
is
love
my
it.
real name. I tell
I
people
love
that
it.
all the time.
And my real name is Charlie, so I'm not questioning it. You just light up a
Yeah.
room when you speak.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I tell people every time I speak, I try very much to live up to my name. So, yes, I try
They
to be that bright light and to bring something that
yes,
they can chew on, think on, and that encourages them, right? That's a part
absolutely.
of our world, and being a leader is encouraging people too.
Wonderful. So we will kick things off. If you could please introduce yourself and then tell us what you do within your organization or company.
Yes, so Sparkle Sanders, I'm a leadership trainer, a speaker, and a coach certified with Maxwell Leadership. And I tell everyone that's a fancy way of saying it's my job to add value to others and to help leaders be great. And I do that in a variety of ways. I do that through executive coaching, I do that through group coaching. I also facilitate and lead workshop retreats, masterminds, all to help give leaders the tools and the strategies that they need to be successful. Leadership starts from within, Charlie. That is my philosophy. It starts from within. And my job is to help leaders get comfortable and get clear on what it is they are called to do in their leadership so that they can do it and do it successfully and well.
I love it. You're just the person to do that, Sparkle. So
Yes,
I think
thank
that's
you.
fantastic. We are definitely in alignment with what our vision is and what we really
Yeah.
hope to do for other people. So when you're thinking about all of those things, I mean, making sure that they can do what they were called to do as leaders, something that I love to kick us off with talking about is the ability to have a clear, concise vision. So, talk to me about how you walk your leaders through creating that clear vision and mission for their organization, company, business.
Yes, yes. Vision is everything. I tell my leaders that, Charlie, vision is everything. It is foundational. Vision is your why, it is your purpose. In order for you to know where you are going, you have to have a vision. And so, actually, in a lot of my coaching and in a lot of my sessions, because in addition to being a leadership trainer, speaker, and coach, I have 20 years of experience in marketing and strategy development and branding. And so I do a lot of strategic planning too. And so I pull from that when I am coaching a leader to remind them and help them see that we have to start with the foundation. You got to know your purpose and why. Most of the time, leaders are frustrated with what they are doing and how to do it. And it's because they have forgotten their why or they've never known their why. So I create strategy sessions where we start with the basics, right? I walk them through and I facilitate a conversation asking them specific questions about why are they doing what they are doing. I make them revisit, why did you start this company? What was the passion behind it? Is this the target audience that you really want to have now? Has that target audience and the people you serve, your clients, your customers changed? If so, how are we going to change with them? A lot of the time, vision takes time, right? And we don't want to take the time to actually create the vision. We're rushing, right? And I get it. I want to validate that for everybody out there who's listening. I do it too. We are so busy. We are doing all the things. So when I talk about vision and mission and values, which I do a lot of vision shaping and a lot of culture shaping, I tell my leaders this is going to take time. You have to be intentional about sitting down and thinking about this. And so a lot of them will say, Sprinkle, you are asking me these deep questions, these thought-provoking questions I haven't thought about in forever or a while. And I said, I know. But this is what gets you to the next level. And so we sit down probably over a course of a couple of days. Sometimes, based on the schedule, we have to break it up. But I love to do like vision planning retreats where we got a good 2-day retreat where we are doing nothing but visioning. We are doing nothing but talking about, now that we have the vision, what's the mission? Mission is our how. How are we going to do this? Then we move into values. Values helps us make decisions. What do you care about? What is this company built on? What is the core that you have built your organization on? And then how we can communicate that out. And then once we get that, Charlie, I think it's important for any leader to know we just don't stay there. Because what happens with our vision, our mission, and our values, we create it, we put it in a pretty folder, and we put it at our desk, right? You already know we never see it again. And so then when it's time for the strategic plan in another 3 to 5 years, we say, what was our old one? What are we going to do? So I challenge my leaders to take what we have talked about and put it in a graphical way someplace in their office, in their building, share it with your staff so we can embrace it. There's nothing worse than having a vision that you've created that no one knows about and they can't embrace. You know it, your leadership team knows it, but your staff doesn't know it. So once you leave those strategy sessions, and once you leave the retreat with me, I challenge them, how are you going to take this and make sure your team embraces it and knows how they're going to carry it out, and remind them of it every day by putting it in front of them.
And it makes leadership a lot easier when you have that strong foundation. Yeah, because when you have to have some of those tough conversations, you can bring it back to the vision and the mission, and it doesn't sound so personal. You're not saying, I need you to do this. Well, no, we need to do this because this is the collective vision and mission that we all agreed upon. And so it makes leadership more aligned and not so much rift and arguments and things like that, because we say, well, let's take it back to the vision. Let's bring it back. Yeah. I say, it's funny. Oh, go ahead.
And on the toughest of days, I tell my leaders, when you feel discouraged, when you feel defeated, when you're like, why am I even leading this? Why did I start this company? Why did I take this job? Go back to your why. Vision is your why. You need a personal why as a leader, and then you need a why for your organization or your company. You need both. And most of us, job hop, we go from position to position and we're confused. Well, I think I'm going after this because, this is a good title. I think go back to your why. What's your why? What's your foundation? I love what you said. It's your foundation. It brings you back to the core. And so when you get discouraged, when you have a tough day, a tough conversation, after you shake through the emotions, you can say, okay, let me go back. What's my statement? What's my why? This is why we're here. This is why I'm here. This is how I add value. Okay, let me, wipe my tears a bit, but roll up my sleeves and get ready to go. And I believe you're absolutely right. It helps us stay online and it helps reduce those tensions because we're coming together around a common vision and a common goal, for sure.
Absolutely. I laugh because when I first got my first principal job, they already had all of that done. And being naive, I said, oh, well, good. That's already done. I'm just going to adopt it and I'm going to run with it. And then I started peeling back the layers of what they were. And there's no offense to what they decided prior to me. But I started realizing, I'm like, as a leader, I'm not even comfortable being the one to be the charge for this. Because one of the slogans was high expectations, no excuses. And that's like the opposite of my personality. And so how can I lead this staff
so good
when I don't even agree with what I'm standing for because I didn't help create that mission, vision, or that tagline? And so we had to regroup. In year 2, I was like, oh, no, I'm going to do this right. And you're right. We took that time to do the work. And so then when I had to have some of those tougher conversations, such as, hey, every time a kid, it doesn't meet your expectation, you got to stop sending them out in the hallway.
Right.
I was able to just take it back to what our tagline was, which we changed it to
Yeah.
every student matters, every moment
Love
counts.
that.
And
Yeah.
so when they would, yeah, when they would get on the hallway, I say, is this a line to every student matters, every
Mm,
moment counts? And it took some of that emotion out of the conversation, and it helps bring our team together. And so I
yes.
agree with you that it may take a lot of time, but don't skip it.
Don't skip. And I love what you said about you knowing the vision. You were able to analyze it and connect it back to your leadership, your
Mhm.
values, what was important to you. I think we don't do enough of that, Charlie. I think,
Mhm.
right? We get into a role. We're super excited about it. It's
Mhm.
cool, it's new. We know we can do a lot of things there, make a lot of impact, right? But we don't take the time to recognize, wait a minute, what are they all about? What are they
Right.
about? What do they value? Is it aligned with my values? I love how you said it's actually the opposite of what I'm about. Okay, let me just absorb this, but then in a year or two, we're gonna do some changes. Yes. And I think
Mhm.
that's important for us to know as leaders that we got to take a look when we're moving into these roles. How are they aligned with my personal vision, my
Right.
personal values? And is there opportunity, right? If they're not aligned, do I have influence?
Right.
Right? That I can, make this more aligned to what my vision is, or is it not going to be that way? If so, how am I going to respond? Right. So I think it's knowing that can decrease the frustrations and the tension that comes with leadership.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
when we're talking about leadership and we have this clear vision, mission, our tagline, we have some folks that are going to be within our organizations or that are striving to be leaders, but they don't necessarily have that leadership title. What are
Yeah.
some things that you say to those folks who are looking to be able to get into those leadership roles? What are some strategies or ideas and things that they can do so that they can
Yes.
move towards getting that role?
Yes, love this. I deal with this all the time in the work that I do. And, a lot of the industries that, I work in, universities, college, higher education, healthcare, et cetera. And so I see this a lot in education and healthcare. It's a lot of demand in those industries, right? And so we have leaders that are eager to grow and learn, but sometimes dependent on budget and just how units are developed, it may not be set up yet for that opportunity to come. So what do? What do I do? Sparkle, I like my department, my unit, my organization. I don't want to leave, but I'm not getting promoted yet. Here's some ways that you can stand out and stand above. Again, taking that same lens of looking at yourself from within. How can you grow in your ownership and your accountability? How can you grow in being creative, taking things by the bootstraps and really owning it? One of the things I work with a lot of leaders on, and I chuckle because they'll tell me, Sparkle, I just don't know what's wrong with my organization. I've been here for 5 years. I do all the work. Like, why are they not valuing me? Why are they not, seeing me? And so as we get into a deeper conversation, Charlie, what I end up learning is they are being very reactive and not proactive. And so that's something I want to touch on right now. I think it's important when you are not in a leadership quote unquote role yet, where you feel like you have the title, right? And you have the pay to go with it. What can I do in the meantime? Grow in your proactiveness, grow in your accountability, grow in your ownership. What does that look like? That means owning your role. So, for example, let's say you are just an account executive, right? You're like, I'm just an account executive. I challenge people, don't put just in front of anything. I'm just the account. No, you're not. You are leading that role. I hear people say, I'm just an office manager. No, you are the first face they see when they walk into those doors. How are you owning that? You are the person that they see that is welcoming, approachable, knowledgeable. So, how do you grow in that? How do you get prepared if you're the office manager for budget season, for making sure everybody has what they need? Do you know what they need? Do you go around and talk to them and build relationships so you know how you can be of support and assistance to them as the office manager? And so, anybody listening, I want to challenge you to really not look at title and position. Look at yourself and look at the role and how you can bring value to it. It's really about, Charlie, knowing who you are as a person and knowing what you bring in every environment. I teach that so much. You have to know what your strengths are. We all know our deficiencies, right? I can give you 25 of those, but do you know, and more, but do you know your strengths? What do you bring to the environment? Are you detail oriented? Are you organized? Do you get along well with others? Are you a great writer? Are you great with technology? Use those things and own that role. And I promise you, as you are being effective in that, people are going to see it. They're going to see, oh my goodness, he is such a helper. Oh my goodness, she is so important to this team. Like, she's always adding value. She's giving us great ideas. This is how you grow and develop and you get prepped for the promotion and for the advancement.
Yes, I think that is great advice, Sparkle. Owning your role, and that's not something that I think people always necessarily go to. I think that they sometimes start feeling defeated and start questioning themselves and not realizing
Absolutely.
that hold on, stop, because all that's
Yeah.
gonna is bring you down, and then you're not going to be able to come your true authentic self because you're just beating
Yeah.
yourself up all day. We constantly just
Being yourself
beat
up.
ourselves up, beat ourselves. And so I like that you said, hey, own the role you're in. Be the best account manager you can be. Be the best clinic manager that you can be. Whatever role you're in, try your best to highlight your strengths within that role. And I think
Yeah.
that that's definitely fantastic advice.
I will be honest, and throughout, I was 20 years of experience in marketing, right? I said 10 years in a row where I didn't even have my own office.
Mhm.
And I tell a lot of, because we have a multi-generational workforce now, right? And so if you are leading out there, I share your pain. I know it's hard because you're leading across generations. And for
Mhm.
some of the younger generations, what I have heard from my more seasoned professional is, I don't know how to connect with them, Sparkle. They, I feel like where I was, okay with waiting to grow, they want to grow fast, they want things quick. And so what I always describe and I say is, for me, I sat for 10 years and I shared an office with two other people. It wasn't a chemical, but it was an office. I didn't have the title. I didn't have the pay. But what did I do in that? I got developed. So what you're really talking about, Charlie, this question to me is about development. Do you know how to get developed? So a lot of us want the advancement and the promotion, but you got to get developed. The position that you and I both are in now in being a leadership coach and being, in executive roles, it has come from development. We've had to sit through some things, right? We've had to grow through some things and we had to work on ourselves. There was things that I had to grow in learning, okay, I'm doing some people pleasing here. That's not going to be good for my decision making. I got to learn how to make a decision and knowing this is for the good of this team or this company and being okay with this may ruffle a few feathers, but it's for the best. I had to grow in my accountability, my ownership, not being tied to the position, but saying, okay, I'm really strong in these areas. How can I embrace it? And so I want to encourage people with that and saying, if you have been sitting in a role and you feel like I'm not noticed, I'm not getting the title and the pay, keep developing so
Mhm.
that you can get the skills that will not only get you there, but keep you where you want to go.
And when I think about development, because that's an ongoing process, right? We're never grown.
Yes, friend.
Right?
Yes,
So I can tell myself when I turned 18, I'm grown. But
right.
many, many years past 18, and I still don't know if I'm really grown.
I'm not, no, no.
Yeah. So
That
we're
is
constantly
so, such a lie.
I know. But to be able to grow and to develop, a big piece is being able to handle feedback. And to also, as a leader, we have to be comfortable with providing constructive feedback. So this is a two-part question here.
Yes.
Talk to me about your thoughts on how to provide constructive feedback as a leader, but then also for those that are emerging leaders, how to receive that feedback.
Yes, such a great question. And it is twofold. So, for those of us who are providing the feedback, I think we first have to understand and see that there's a framework to it, right? I teach a whole course and a workshop around the secrets to having difficult conversations, because when you're giving feedback, you can't treat it like you and I are talking right now. And most of the time, we go into it kind of casually. Like, we have some of these emotions, and our stomach may be in knots because we know, oh, I don't want to have this conversation, but we don't plan for it. And so, the first piece of practical advice I would give is, when you are providing feedback, I need you to prepare for it. I need you to do your research, right? When we're thinking about, looking at someone's performance, right? Most of the time we have an annual review. I've been stretching my leaders and challenging them to provide ongoing feedback throughout the year. Why? Because once a year, it's a long time in 12 months for me to figure out like where I'm at, what I'm doing well in, and what I'm not, right? So when you have ongoing feedback, they know what's going on, and you're getting used to having this feedback conversation, them receiving it and you giving it. And so prepare for that is the first thing. How can you get prepared to have a conversation with your staff, with your employee, to talk about feedback they're going to give them? Some of this feedback could be around performance review, and it's something that they're going to continually grow in. But feedback also, Charlie, could be something has recently come up. We've noticed something. This has been a new pattern, and I've got to get this to you immediately. Spend that time preparing. Then my next step, I would tell, don't bum rush the person, right? You want to tell them, hey, you and I need to have a conversation. I'm going to send you a meeting request. We're going to do this on Tuesday at this time. And here's what we're going to talk about. Now, the issue is going to be that person is going to be like, am I in trouble, et cetera. They're going to kind of come back with you. Maybe if this is more critical, what do I need to do? You have to remain in control in that situation, I would say, and reassure them, letting them know Tuesday is the perfect time. We're going to discuss this. Here's what we're going to talk about. Come prepared. And so all of this takes preparation and courage and confidence on our part as leaders. We have to have the preparation so that we have our ducks in a row to have the conversation. We got to have the courage, Charlie, to say, this is what needs to be done. And for the sake of not only the organization, but this person's growth, I have to have it. And you have to be confident in, I'm doing the right thing and the best thing for the organization, for them. It's less about you and more about them. Whenever I put them in my lens, things feel a lot better. When I start saying, okay, this is not about me being afraid or what they're going to say, but I care about this person. I want them to do well. So because of that, I want to give them this feedback, and I want to be best prepared for it.
That's
So
right.
that's on the right. That's on the leader side. And then on the receiving end, which is even harder, right? How do I sit there and take this feedback and not take it personal? I think one of the ways that you do that is you have to have the ability to listen, and listen without being quick to respond, right? So a lot of times we're not actively listening. We're listening just so we can say, let me jump in there and get in there and say it. You have to really listen, and you have to be open-minded to say, okay, let me think about the context of this. This is why relationship is so important in leadership, Charlie, because I can receive feedback better if I have a relationship with you and I know you care about me and I know you're telling me something that's for my good. This is where the mistakes happen, I think, when giving feedback. It is hard to give feedback to someone you don't have a relationship with. There's no trust. There's no trust.
Yeah.
I don't know if you care about me. I don't know if you honor me or not, right? And so what ends up happening is I automatically take it personal. Of course, I'm defensive. And so when you're giving feedback and when you're receiving it, we got to make sure, do I have a relationship with this person? Do we have a relationship with each other? Because it goes both ways. When I'm receiving it, if I'm able to say, okay, I know Charlie. Charlie, she cares about me. She supports me. Okay, if she's telling me something, this is because it's for my good. That helps me. When I don't have that, I'm defensive and I am ready to jump back in and say, you can't be right about this. And so making sure that you have a relationship with the person and you know their intentions and their motives when you're receiving feedback is just as important as listening, right? And then I would also say asking good clarifying questions and follow up. So they're giving you feedback. Maybe you're like, can you give me a more solid example? And could you tell me, okay, this is where I am, but what's your expectation? Where would you like me to be? What's the measure? Where am I going for? That lets me know, okay, I'm here, but I can get there because they're telling me. And then after you noodle and chew on this a bit, right? It's gonna take some time. You don't need to respond immediately. You may have to take it, digest it, come back to your supervisor and say, I've heard you. I still have a few more questions. Okay, we got those answered. Here's what I can do to meet those standards. It's a process, Charlie. And again, all these things take time. I think we're so uncomfortable having the conversation, we rush through it. And what I'm really saying is we got to be prepped for it on both ends. And we got to listen and we really got to develop good, solid relationships with each other so that these conversations can go well.
I love that you bring it back to planning because I always am a proponent on plan, plan, plan. Now we
Yeah.
know that everything doesn't go as planned all the time,
Right.
but I do think that on both ends with giving feedback and receiving feedback takes planning. And so when those beginning of the year times when the leaders ask, how do you like to be communicated with? One, that's a form of planning. So that
Yes, it
leaders,
is.
if you're going to ask that question, then you need to honor the response. And then vice versa, for the person who you've been asked, how do you like to be communicated with? You need to take the opportunity to tell the truth and don't be somebody you're not. Because if waiting, like you said, if the meeting's on Tuesday, if the leader knows that that's going to give you anxiety, but
Yeah.
you didn't articulate that when they originally asked, hey, how do you like to be communicated with? You just said email, then you can't get upset and get your,
Absolutely.
when you didn't articulate, ooh, hey, because I remember being in a different seat when I wasn't in a leadership role and having to articulate that, hey, I'm a brand new assistant principal. When you just put a calendar invite and say, we need to talk, my heart drops.
Yeah.
And I'm freaking out. And so I'll never forget one of the first times I got that, I'm calling my mom. I said, Mom. And she said, what? I said, I'm nervous. She said, what's going on? No. So I said, the principal wants me in her office. And she said, okay, slow down. She said, what are you afraid of? And I said, I don't want to get in trouble.
Trouble. Yeah.
It is so funny that, shout out to my mom because I still remember this to this day. And this is, 15 years later. But she said, the only person that you can get in trouble with is me because I'm your mother and you're nobody else's child. So there is no such thing as getting in trouble when you are an adult. And so I
That's so
took that
good.
and I applied that to a lot of things with getting feedback and giving feedback, that I make sure as a leader, whomever I'm giving feedback to, I want to make sure they know they're not in trouble,
Yes.
right? Whether
Yes.
or not it's going to be feedback that they're going to love to hear or not, I spend a lot of time making sure they know. And by doing that, it's like what you said, tell them what the meeting is going to be about. You can jot down those bullets. This is not a gotcha. I'm going to talk to
Yeah.
you about the presentation you gave on Tuesday and some areas of refinement. Boom, they already know. Just letting you know, excellent job with X, Y, and Z. I just want to refine A, B, and C.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
we talk about. And
Yes.
it matter but it goes back to you have to plan. And a lot of people don't plan. So they're just slapping it on somebody's calendar. And then, or the other person who's receiving it, they also didn't plan because they saw it on the calendar and then just shut down instead of maybe going and doing what you said. Ask a question. Sparkle, I noticed you put this on my
Yeah.
calendar.
Right.
Do you have 2 minutes to talk?
Yes. What does it mean? Your example is so near and dear to my heart. I think about that and earlier on in my career, and you know, when you're starting out, you just don't know. You're green, right? And so when you see something coming from your supervisor, you are a deer in headlights, like, I did something, like, what do I need to fix, right? So you have this panic. And so I love why we're having this conversation, because most of us have sat in that seat, and now we're on the other end where we can provide feedback. We got to remember how that feels. This is why the relationship is so important, because when I think back on my career, Charlie, the feedback that I've gotten from people I've had relationships with, boy, it felt different. I remember, you know, I did a whole marketing plan and presentation, and this was from you know, a boss that was, she was just amazing and wonderful. And we walked out together. She was there with me, and she said, "Well, how do you think it went?" I said, "Oh, I think it went okay, etc." She said, "You did a wonderful job." And she encouraged me. And then she said, "Okay, for next time, here's what I want you to remember." It was so good. Like, that feedback
Yes.
and the relationship was there. But I've also had the opposite, where I had a boss like text me on my phone on a weekend. I thought it was an emergency. It was a panic. And it was something that she and I had to really have good feedback on, because what we realized was what she felt was an emergency, I didn't view as an emergency, right? And so it caused a lot of tension. And so she really, through a text, was trying to give me feedback about one of my team members. But I'm like, this is out of the context of work. Like, this is a week. Like, I'm like, is something on fire? It's not. What's going on? Right. And we just had to really get an understanding and figure out, okay, when things feel like they are an emergency, how are we going to know that from each other? Right.
Yeah.
How, and we had to plan that. And we
Right.
wrote some stuff down so that I knew and that she knew, okay, if I throw you this signal, that means, hey, to me, everything's on fire. I need you. Right. And so I think
It's
it's
not on fire. You bet that.
right. But I'm like,
Yeah.
what's wrong? Right. But I think that happens, this miscommunication. And I
Yes.
love what you're saying, expectations. If I tell you up front, if I can have this conversation, tell me, like, how do you like to be communicated to? Boy, that goes a long way.
Right.
Such a
Absolutely.
long way. It saves
Absolutely.
so much tension.
Right. You're right. Well, Sparkle, as we go ahead and end our beautiful conversation, if you could just leave me with just one, because I know it's hard, because there is a
Yeah.
million things that we could say, because I'm like that too.
Yeah.
I just, oh my goodness, I'm like just love to help people. But if you could just give one piece of advice
Sure.
to someone who is in a leadership role or potentially an emerging leader, what would that one piece of Sparkle advice be?
Yeah. This is what it would be. And you're probably like, that's cliche. I would say, get to know yourself.
Mm.
Leadership starts from within. I can't stress that more. I think when people think about leadership, Charlie, they have a very external view. It's very visible. They think it looks a certain way, it sounds a certain way. And that's not always true. You are bringing yourself to that leadership role. Do you
Mhm.
know who you are? Do you know how you want to lead? Do you know your leadership persona, is what I call your leadership identity? Do you know your strengths and your limitations? I would tell anybody, get to know you. Because when you get to know you really well, and you know where you shine bright, you know where you also need support and help, you can build your team, and you can delegate, you can empower, you can encourage and lift up, giving you the time to keep doing the things that you love the most. So I would say, get to really know yourself so that you can lead well and keep valuing others.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Sparkle. That was amazing. That is a
Yeah.
perfect end to our conversation because I'm telling you, that is work that must be done.
Yes.
I agree, and I say the more you know yourself, the better you can relate with others and you can lead.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
that shuts it down. That is a beautiful end to our conversation.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
know yourself. Sparkle, if people want to connect with you further beyond this conversation or this platform, where can they go to find you?
Yes, the best way to find me is through my website. It is my name, sparklesanders.com. That gives you all the information. I am also on all the major platforms, Sparkle Sanders, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you look up my name, which is so unique, you will find me. But those are the best ways to connect with me, to learn more about me, my services, and also to get some bite-sized, clips and inspirations. I do that a lot on the platforms just to keep us lifted up. As leader, I give, some growth reminders and just some words of encouragement that we need to get through the day and get through this leadership journey.
Absolutely. Well, this conversation lifted me up. I hope that you all have enjoyed this conversation and can really take this and implement this in your leadership journey. So thank you all so much for joining Communicate to Lead Virtual Leadership Conference. Thank you so much to Sparkle for being
You're
on this
welcome.
platform with us. And you all have a
Thank
great
you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.